Hello and welcome to Piano TV. Today we're going to work on some new concepts like the tie and the 3/4 time signature, as well as learn some music that you will almost definitely know. So without further ado, let's get right into it. In the video Intro to Rhythm, we talked about the different rhythm values as well as some popular time signatures. So far, we've been doing tunes in 4/4, but today we're going to look at a couple pieces in 3/4. A 3/4 time signature means that there are 3 beats in every measure. So observing this really simple line of music, you can see that, in fact, every measure does add up to 3, because 1 + 1 + 1 is 3, 2 + 1 is 3, 1 + 2 is 3, and so on and so on. Nice and easy math. Pieces in 3/4 time signature have a different flow to them. They're more swaying and less rigid than 4/4 time signature. So a really common type of dance is in 3/4 is the waltz, which you probably know, and it involves smooth, graceful movements, and it has sort of a bop 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 rhythm to it, which you might be familiar with, and it's very different from the rhythm of 4/4, which is pretty much every radio song ever, which is more like it has more of that type of beat. So 3/4 just generally tends to have more flow. One piece we'll learn today, Chopsticks, which you might remember as the only song you could ever play on the piano as a kid, is often played in either 3/4 or 4/4 time signature. So I just want to show you the difference in sound between the two time signatures. So I'll show you the time signature 3/4 first. So you can hear that kind of waltzy thing, even though it's like not a waltz. And this is what it sounds like in 4/4. So you can hear that there's an entirely different flow when you change the time signature. Today we're going to focus just on the 3/4 version, just to practice playing songs in 3/4. But before we do that, we got to talk about a couple other things first. Intervals! An interval is the distance between two notes. So this is an interval, this is an interval, that's an interval, so on and so forth. If there's a distance between notes, that is an interval. They can be played harmonically, which means at the same time, or melodically, with one note at a time. Now, intervals are measured in distance. So if you play a C to a D, that's an interval of a second because C and D involve just 2 notes right beside each other. C to E is an interval of a third because if you count, there's 1, 2, 3 notes involved in that situation. C to F would be a 4th, C to G would be a 5th, and a 6th, and a 7th, and an 8th, and you can kind of keep on going forever. So just for a few more random examples, is a second, is a 4th, is a 3rd. Intervals are really useful to understand because when you're just glancing at sheet music, it allows you to read music faster by being able to judge the distance between 2 notes at a glance. So this is what a second looks like, this is what a third looks like, and so on and so forth, fourths, fifths, etc. So now let's take a look at what the intervals are going to look like in our song Chopsticks. So let's take a look at this opening harmonic interval right here at the beginning. Now these 2 notes are right beside each other, so it's an interval of a second. These ones over here, you notice that there's a gap of 1 note in between them, so this would be a 3rd. This one's got a 2-note gap, so that's a 4th. And this one's even bigger. This one ends up being an interval of a 6th. So that's all there is to reading intervals. Now what we're going to talk about are these crazy swoopy line things. Those swoopy line things that connect like this are called ties, and they're different than this slur here seen below, which means to play smoothly. So ties connect 2 of the same note or 2 of the same chord, and it basically means that you only play the first note and keep holding for the value of the second note. So for this one, with a quarter note tied to a quarter note, you would press this first note, keep holding for the second note, and you'd be holding this for a total of 2 beats because, 1 + 1 = 2. Basic math stuff. So one of the main reasons that ties exist is because whole notes, which equal 4 beats, are the biggest type of note in music. There aren't any rhythms that, get 5 beats or 10 beats or anything. So sometimes this is a way to make really long notes possible. And the main way to tell a slur down here and a tie up here apart is that a tie is always connecting to the exact same letter. So a tie will be a C to a C, or an F to an F, or a C chord to a C chord, whereas a slur will be usually more than one note at once, but not always. But they're always going to be connecting different notes. So a slur might, in this case, you're going C, E, G, E, and it's slurring all those together instead of, a tie which goes two of the same letter to each other. So now let's take a look at Chopsticks again. You can see that all these chords in the entire piece are tied, which means they're held through two bars each. And you'll hear what that sounds like when I play it in a minute. One more thing to note is in Chopsticks, in the final note, in the bass, this is a note that's really, really low. And I'm going to leave it up to you to see if you can figure it out. I don't want to tell you what it is, so you can take the time to actually count or read notes all the way down to that low bass note. I'll leave you to your own devices. All right, and now I'll show you what Chopsticks sounds like. So now we'll dive into the main piece of the week, Dicoloris, which is a very famous Spanish tune that you've probably heard at some point in your life. Now, this is going to be the first big project here on Piano TV, and it's partly a big project because it's 2 pages long, and it's also a little bit more difficult than some of the other pieces you've learned so far. I would expect this one to take you anywhere from 2 weeks to a month to learn to like perfection level, as opposed to just 1 week like the shorter pieces we've done so far. Unless you're like a superhero and you practice a whole ton, or there's always exceptions, but that's what I think. The first thing you might notice is that for the entire piece, the left hand is just playing single bass notes. So that's nice and simple. But where the real difficulty lies in this piece is with the right hand, because the right hand is playing both harmony notes and melody. So let's look at this tie here in particular. If you remember from when we were just talking about ties 30 seconds ago, hopefully you'll remember that. You're basically playing the first note and holding all the way through the second note. So this note would actually end up holding for a total of 5 beats, because you have 3 + 2 = 5. Music math is, usually pretty easy. So how this is going to work is you're going to press this G with finger 5 while your thumb and finger 1 play these 2 notes underneath it. I'm going to play an example of it so you can hear what that sounds like, but slowed down. Now, this is a difficult but important technique to learn. Now, also notice that the right hand throughout most of the song is one specific type of interval. If you said it's an interval of a third, then you would be correct. And using thirds is just another way to boost the sound of a piece. It just makes it sound more interesting than playing single notes. Also notice that here at the end of the first page, the right hand dips below middle C. So this is a new note to learn, but you use the same logic to figure out this note as you would for any other note. Middle C goes on the line, and this is just a step below that, so that low note is a B. And then since it's a third, the note above that B is a D, and that's all there is to it. I'll show you what this piece sounds like altogether. And remember, this one will likely take longer to get to a full playing level. So now I'm going to leave you to practice these 2 more challenging pieces. Hopefully you have fun with them. I had a lot of fun arranging them. They're just, they're good songs. Everyone knows them, so they're fun to play. Thanks for watching, and as always, subscribe to this channel, visit the blog pianotv.net, and feel free to leave comments in the little comment section there. Toodles! They're more swaying and less rigid.